if you can introduce yourself, who are you, where you're from?
Okay, my name is Albert Gordon. I'm from San Andrés Island. It's a little island in the Caribbean, somewhere between Jamaica and Central America. And I'm a black Raizal man. That's basically who I am.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the culture of San Andres and the communities that make up? You mentioned Raizal. A lot of people wouldn't have a clue what that means.
Yeah, well, in San Andrés culture, the Raizal people, to define what is Raizal is something really difficult and it's really hard to define because the Raizal, there's a lot of components that form the Raizal individual. For example, not every Raizal person is a black person. That is a mistake a lot of people make. So you have Raizal people who can be white person or who can have Asiatic or Asian descendants or even Indian descendants from the indigenous people who are in the Mosquito Coast. So yeah, the Raizal is like you're just it's like a melting pot of the different people who were here. Which you have the different African tribes that were present on the island. Also, you have the British, you have the Dutch, the Scottish, Irish, even Jews were present in on the island during the colonization period and all of this stuff. So yeah, the Raizal is just to identify a Raizal, you have to like trace his bloodline back to this territory.
Okay, so I mean, where did the term Raizal come from?
The term Raizal comes from okay. First of all, there was the term Raizal, as far as I have knowledge of it. It is conceived because of a necessity to include the people from San Andres into the Colombian Constitution in 1991. So they didn't have a way to call us. Like, who are the people from San Andres? Or say from, yeah, from who are the people from San Andres? So they needed to have a name to put in the Constitution so that they could build laws that could um, be corresponded to us. So the term Raizal born, there is Mr. Dolph Mitchell and some other people who came up with this name Raizal. Before Raizal, there was a name Children of the Soil. But yeah, the name Raizal borns because of the necessity of the Colombian government to include include San Andres in the laws.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop for a second.
Yeah. So Colombia owning San Andres. Um, it's a funny story though. Like San Andres was never like historically, culturally, like even like legally, even today, San Andres is not really Colombian territory. Um, Historically, there's nothing to back up that. There's no evidence to back it up. So San Andres, what happened that was first there was the La Gran Colombia. La Gran Colombia was before the Gran Colombia disintegrated was Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Panama. I want to skip. I'm not missing anyone out. All these countries were one country was like La Gran Colombia. So all these people was one nation. San Andres adhered to La Gran Colombia. So when the Gran Colombia split up, Colombia as a nation came to San Andres and said, "Yo, we want you all to be like like our partners." In no moment, Colombia said that we want you to belong to us. So they promised the people from San Andres a whole lot of stuff, and they were going to protect us, and just happy promises to let the people feel good. It's been 200 years now, and Colombia has failed to live up to the promises and the things that they said they were going to give to the islander people. So basically, like legally, there is nothing that can make us Colombians, and historically, in our culture, there is nothing that can link us to the Colombian territory other than the abuse and the imposition from the Colombian government upon these islands. But really, there is nothing that can link us to. to us as identify ourselves as being Colombians.
Okay, I mean, on the subject of that, in terms of how that's played out in terms of territories and occupation, like I know I saw a census report that in 1998 there was 60% of the island was Raizal, and as of current date, it's 30%.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little about that and kind of explain how that has affected the culture of the island, language, culture, businesses, opportunities for Raizal people? You could maybe split that up into three sections. That's a big question.
Okay. So the way that the amount of people that are currently on the island, because okay, like in the past, the population was the majority of the population was Raizal people, but today we find ourselves being minority in our own territory, and it's just the impact that it has had on our culture, our way of living, like in every aspect of our society as Raizal people. It's been crazy because now you find that little children growing up prefer to speak Spanish than Raizal children, and the parents as well like prefer to teach their children to speak Spanish rather than to speak our native language, which is Creole. So that, for instance, our education is in Spanish. There are a lot of Raizal people that um, they can understand English, but they do not write English, even though our language is almost basically like 80% English, if it's not more. So I mean, we have picked, or the Raizal community have picked up a lot of practices and traditions that are not pertaining to us, but they have adopted it from the Colombians that have been here on the island. For example, um, the quinceañeras. Like you find Raizal people celebrating quinceañeras, and like in the past, this is nothing from the Raizal community. This was brought over from the quinceañera is a Spanish tradition. Like people in Latin America do quinceañeras, but no English people or any African people are doing quinceañeras. You get me? So there has been a lot of impact. Just there was a plan, and this is a plan that the Colombian government did, which was to completely eradicate the culture, the language of the people on the island in order to Colombianize the island. So this was like a plan that was I have a plan at home. It's a plan, el plan secreto de Colombia para colombianizar a San Andrés. So it was a written plan that the government issued. So what they did in the plan was to send people to the islands, to overpopulate the islands, and to gradually force us to begin to lose our culture and put us in a position that, for example, people could not study or work if they did not, one, stop speaking Creole and begin to speak Spanish, and two, whatever spirituality they practice, whether it being Baptist or Adventist, they had to leave it aside and begin to practice Catholicism. So I mean, we still find ourselves in this predicament. We are in like a period of, I always say we are still in a period of neo-colonialism. So that's basically, there's a whole lot of other things going on.
I mean, that's deep in itself. You say that, the destruction of, you take away somebody's language,
Yeah.
their identity, and you take away the people. It's pretty much the handbook of colonialism all over the world. So I'm really sorry that's happening here. So I guess the next point for me on that, just as a point of interest, what is I mean, in terms, especially the kind of black communities here, where would they have originated from before San Andres? Like in terms of what is their origin? Like, in Jamaica, a lot of people come from Ghana, from
Yeah.
Nigeria, Benin.
Okay.
In terms of San Andres's kind of history, in terms of its relationship to slavery and slavery history, and therefore the mixed culture we have in the Caribbean, what is its position in that?
Well, you're asking more like where our ancestors came from?
Yeah,
Okay.
like in terms of the kind of mainly, I guess, in terms of the black culture, because as I said, when I'm walking around here, I'm seeing people, African, for instance, like people have a day
Yeah.
like this, Like for me, I know this because I'm a Santero. This is
Okay.
from Cuba, from it's African spirituality,
Yoruba.
it's
Okay.
Yoruba.
Okay.
But I see a lot of people wear this here and they say, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
brujo, no,
Okay.
brujo. It's
Okay.
for
Okay.
protection.
Okay.
They
I
don't
get you.
realize, yeah, it's protection, but it's protection because it's
Yeah.
a connection to a
Yeah.
Yoruba
Okay.
religion.
Okay. I
So
get
for
you.
me, I'm just kind of asking, what is the foundational root in terms of the African? It's a diasporic journey here for San Andres.
Okay. So for example,
In a
like
way that explains the question.
yeah, like basing on what you just said, like African spirituality here on the island wasn't something that was really um practiced per se. Like who you like if someone would practice, like, let's say let's say the Yoruba religion or spirituality or something like that, they were they were like immediately say that yo, this is not Obia man, like this is a he's
Mm.
a he's a Obia man, a witch or a voodoo priest or whatever. So well, like to understand that you have to understand like the history of the island. Like the island was always in its origin like a Christian island because the first people to actually settle here were Puritans. Like they came running from England and ended up in the Bermuda. Since they had like bad weather in the Bermuda, they came to the island and they established themselves here. Now, these Puritans were people like what we could say like modern day Christians. So they had like certain values and certain morality and stuff like that. And the people here begin like when they brought over our ancestors and they were enslaved here. Um, they were taught Christianity and they were like people learned to read from the Bible. That was their first experience like of literature. So um, so that like the Christian values are like really deeply rooted in the people on the island. Like you cannot go to church for years, but that person will wake up in the morning and pray and whatever. But like their belief in God and in Jesus and all of this is always there. Like you will not find a Raizal person, like really difficultly to find a Raizal person that does not believe that there is a creator and that like in the God of Christianity. So like, yeah, as I was saying, like if someone you find someone that practices like African spirituality, he's considered to be a Obia man in the rice like way of thinking. So yeah, that's like basically one of the it's not really practice, something that is very practiced here.
Mm.
And if they do it, it's like in like really secluded areas or in private. It's not something that is very exposed.
Okay, sorry.
So some of the actions that are being taken by the Raizal people to secure or dignity per se, because it seems like we have lost some of that. It has been robbed from us. So there is the Raizal Council or the Raizal Authority, which is the highest authority on the island recognized by local and national government to deal with Raizal cases. So last year, something I think it's like was in June or May. I'm not really sure. They passed the Raizal statute. They sent it over to the Colombian government, and it's there. I mean, they haven't even they aren't doing like the Colombian government does not care about it. They haven't taken any step towards like analyzing and seeing if approving it or not approving it. So it's going to be almost a year since it was sent, and the Raizal community have no response from the Colombian government towards the status of the statute. So I mean, well, one thing that is being done. I mean, we have to educate our people um, concerning who we are, what we can do, and the laws that benefit us as an ethnic community. Because one thing is that we are an ethnic community on paper in the Colombian government, but the Colombian government does not act or does not see us as being an ethnic community. We do not receive the benefits we ought to receive as an ethnic community. Because if the government should acknowledge us as an ethnic community, then we should have autonomy, which we don't. And the Colombian government does not um is not interested in giving us that autonomy. So there was a long time ago, a lot of people were fighting for independence from Colombia. I remember when I was a kid, people were marching these big marches for independence from Colombia. And even like you cannot think of independence without autonomy, and the Colombian state has not given us autonomy. So I mean, it's a long road to tread. There are a lot of people fighting, militantly working. So like, those are like the advancement. It is just like little victories. There hasn't been like something really big that the Raizal community can say, yes, this is ours, and we can rest on this. So it's an ongoing fight. It's an ongoing fight, and we cannot be tired of fighting to get what is rightfully ours. You cannot hold breaks in defending what is rightfully ours.
Okay. Well, I have one final question, which is three parts, really.
Okay.
Let's say three parts. There were three questions. If there were three things you would ask for that would help to resolve this situation from your personal opinion,
Yeah.
what would those three things be?
I really can't answer that question. Huh. I don't have three things. I really just have like one thing. And like for me, like the one thing that could really, like for now, in this very moment, could help like the situation is like the government, just the Colombian government, really acknowledging us as an ethnic community and giving us what an ethnic community is supposed to have, which is autonomy. Because, for example, the indigenous people in the interior of Colombia, what they call indigenas, they have autonomy. They have their own, what they call resguardos. So they rule in their resguardos. They have their own way of self-government in their resguardos. But we who are they are in Colombian territory, we are not. We are all the way out sea, far from the Colombian mainland. So, and we are here in our own territory, but we do not have autonomy from the Colombian government. We cannot self-govern ourselves. So for me, it's one of the debts that the Colombian government have to pay in reparations to what they have done to the Raizal community over for almost 200 years.
Powerful. All right. One final one for me. They just popped in my head. Summarize what you love the most, you personally, about being a Raizal person and a San Andrés, San Andrew citizen.
Oh, to say what the one thing I love about being a Raizal.
Or just what, you don't necessarily be the one thing, like, how would you express your pride for being a person from San Andrés? What is the thing that represents that for you?
Well, the thing that represents it for me, and I always say it, to being a Raizal is being able to speak my tongue, my language. This writer, Lika Ram Zacharias, once said that language leads to the heart of the people. So I feel like speaking Creole leads to my heart. Is the way that I can communicate with my people. It's not the same thing to say a joke in English and Spanish and then say it in your mother tongue. Like no one is gonna laugh at you if you say it in English or Spanish. But when you say it in your tongue, then you are communicating to somebody that can connect to your heart and the way you think. So I guess for me, it's just being able to freely speak my language and to do it whenever I choose to.
Perfect. Thank you. That has been a pleasure. I want to take one more thing, if you can, just to again introduce yourself, because I'm thinking to myself, we need a way of kind of doing it that is, okay, my name is so and so and so forth. I have been studying or learning or researching about San Andrés culture, something that quantifies what you're saying so that we can connect it to. So if we can do that, you can just do that introduction again. Just stop it.